UW Extension meeting to order with the first order of business, comments from the public on items on the agenda. Anybody in the public wishing to comment or? Hearing none, we'll go on to approve the minutes from the December 15th 22 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we got safety share with Tom.
No, we have a guest today. About how to get off a couch without breaking your ankle.
Yeah, don't stand on your furniture. Use appropriate step stools.
Well, you know, it is, and the that happens so often. It's a momentary pause and you just do something that you wish you wouldn't have.
Or she needs to get shorter Christmas trees.
As people get taller.
Mhm.
So, I have nothing else.
Next, we got the chair's report. I really don't have nothing. Supervisor Rand is on vacation, so she'll be joining us by Zoom. Next, we go to the UW Extension Program and Education reports with Christy and Hannah.
Apologize. It's right there.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, good morning. We just wanted to share a little update on really our year-end report. I can divide this and pass it around. This is our like, there's a hand raised. It's okay.
I'm gonna call on her. She's got her, Steve, she's got her hand raised.
Kate does.
Go ahead, Supervisor Rand.
She frozen?
Is that-
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to let you know that I'm happy to be here. We are on our way to Savannah, Georgia to a book festival, but have an opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you. I am planning on getting off at 10:45 your time because we've got to check out the motel we're in. Thank you.
Have fun.
So the first item that I handed out to you was our Winnebago County year-end report for 2022. We're on a goofy fiscal year, so we're actually starting to plan our next fiscal year. Our calendar runs from October 1st to the end of September. So we've been in FY23 now already since the 1st of October. But what you're looking at right now is a summary of our 2022 fiscal year. We have some demographic data of the county and then the impacts that our educators have made in Winnebago County. And if you look on the back, I know Chris Sober has shared with you in the past some of her efforts with the Oshkosh Farmers Market. And there's just a summary of a story that, or impact that she made with the family. I think our intentional efforts to really dive back into the community after being removed for so long has been really, really nice to have the ability to do this past year. That's kind of been the summary as we look at all of our counties, and just our ability to get back to the communities and build relationships with our partners and our participants. So the way that she has been able to recruit for those farmers market tours is that we're spending intentional time at places like food pantries where, as far as Foodwise is reporting, it's indirect education. So we're really, we're being very intentional with spending time building relationships with our participants again, because we know that people are more likely to say yes to something if they know what they're saying yes to and who they're going to meet. You know, I know that I'm more likely to sign up for something if I'm familiar and comfortable with it, if I've maybe met the person before, but I'm not super comfortable going out to a place I've never been before, saying, yes, I'm going to spend an hour and a half with a stranger. so that her ability to take time at the pantry to really just become a familiar face, to recruit for or promote farmers market tours, and then in the winter, she does the same thing for grocery store tours, has really been beneficial. And then in that story, it highlights how she was able to physically be present, have a conversation with an individual who didn't speak English, who had somebody with them, a family member with them who did speak English, who was interested in attending the tour. And then we were able to work with the UW Medicine Office of Access and Inclusion to arrange for an interpreter to show up that day for the farmers market tour. So we really feel strongly about that time that we're spending, although we're not delivering direct education. We're really, I'm blanking on the word I'm looking for, but we're really, what's that?
Networking?
No, we're holding high priority to that time that we're spending building relationships again with our partners and with our participants. And that's a good example of that. And then the outcome was that we were able to not only, deliver a farmer's market tour, but do it in a language that Krista would speak. So she was really proud of that. And then there's just some other facts on the front. And then I just have for you, I won't really speak to it, but the statewide food-wise year-end report.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, is this strictly, this is county, so
Yeah.
what does it mean to be not having a healthy food outlet? How could 34% of our population not be anywhere near a store? Is that what that means? Not near a grocery store?
Yeah. Which one are you looking at?
On the landscape, the very first one, 34% of the population lives in census tracts that have no healthy food outlet.
Yeah.
How
So
close
that-
can you be to a store to be considered access to one?
You know, like distance?
I don't. I think we got that number off of a report that's from Snap Ed.
From where?
So Snap Ed.
Oh,
or
okay.
Snap from
Hard
our
funders.
So I could look into it, but I don't remember how they define that.
I do think, if I recall, that reasonable walking distance or none, it's removing the assumption that everyone has access to a car. So,
Or bus?
so no, public transportation or walking or biking are kind of in that range. And so we do have it in most communities in Wisconsin. We have limited public transportation,
That's
which then shrinks the, shrinks that space. So.
Unless you have a quick trip.
Yeah, and even that is, quick trips are fantastic in comparison to a lot of other convenience stores,
Yeah.
but there's still limited availability to.
They got good double cheeseburgers.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking for, right?
Well, it seems like they always have apples, pears, bananas, oranges, potatoes.
They do. Yeah, like I said, they're a exceptional option in comparison to some other convenience stores. But there isn't a quick trip on every corner.
Practically.
Not in the
Yeah,
country,
it's-
unfortunately.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
They're getting there though.
Where I live in North Park Estates, the closest grocery store would be Pick and Save, and that's probably over 2 miles.
Oh,
And if you had to walk that'd be a long walk.
right,
I mean,
right. And how much could you carry back? Walking
Exactly.
2 miles.
Exactly.
Closest bus station would be down by the apartments by Bergstrom's, so you'd have to walk there, get on the bus. It'd be in the winter, it'd be a long truck to.
Right.
Yeah.
And then think about if you're only able to buy what you can carry, that's not great budgeting. You're buying what you can have. You're not gonna be able to buy in bulk. You're not gonna be able to buy what's on sale necessarily because you just don't have room for it on your shoulders.
Yeah.
So we,
And toilet paper isn't heavy, but it's so big, it takes up,
Takes up space.
yeah,
Yep.
more than a bag's worth.
Right.
Okay.
And that's
How
what it
is the stores delivering food? Is that playing any kind of a role in it?
Potentially, I mean, within a geographic distance to the store generally. I don't know what each store's distance requirements are. But a lot of our families are participating in food benefits. So they're participating in food share, formerly known as food stamps or WIC. And unfortunately, WIC does not allow for drive up services or food delivery because it is a really complex system. So the person doing the shopping in the store needs to know what is a WIC eligible food. You know, it's a hard system to learn. So there's no option for that. So if you participate in WIC, you have to, your only option is going into the store and picking out food yourself.
That you know quality.
Right.
Wouldn't it be more obvious that you could train a couple of store employees to learn everything rather than try every single individual mom on WIC, knowing all? Wouldn't it make more sense to train 2 or 3 employees to be able to know all those things?
Potentially, but then there's so much turnover at a grocery store. I mean, oftentimes that's individuals who are not working there for their entire career. There are some pilot programs, actually, Wapaka County was part of a pilot program to do a shopping, like a, my brain isn't connecting to my mouth today, to have a paid shopper who does not work for the store. It's like a employee of the county.
Okay.
It was a contract service that they had through this pilot grant that they applied for, who would be a shopper and be able to go in, because especially during the pandemic, if you had COVID and you were not able to go out in public for 2 weeks, how are you supposed to get your food if you also didn't qualify to be able to have them bring your groceries out?
So how did that pilot program work? That sounds like a good idea.
It works well. It is, they definitely noticed that the families who had somebody shopping for them were redeeming all the foods they had eligible for them. But then once the pilot program ended, they did notice that families stopped redeeming all of the foods that they had coming to them. And that's probably down to just time, ability to get to the store, transportation. So there's a lot of barriers for our families to get food. You know, a lot of things that we take for granted. When our refrigerator is getting empty, we can get in our car and drive to the store and buy what we need. And that is not a luxury that all of our families in our communities have. So yeah, that just kind of speaks to the local. And then the other one I handed out was the statewide impacts. So just kind of looking at the bigger picture, you know, we are a small team of 4 counties, and there's food wise of just about every county in Wisconsin.
So statewide, 10% of people live in a place where there's not access to food choices. Whereas in Winnebago, not 10% statewide, 34% in Winnebago County. I'm just amazed.
Well, so Karen, one of those can be attributed to the population densities of our urban, you know, La Crosse, Eau Claire, Green Bay, Madison, Milwaukee, and the surrounding areas.
Yeah.
And those areas do have their.
So they skew the numbers.
No. I mean, they are a denser population, and because they are a denser, then public transportation is more practical and feasible. So then that expands those access.
Yeah. So
But-
they skew the numbers, having access that more countrified counties wouldn't have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
You
I don't know
have
if
to
I use
take
the word
this-
skew, but I mean, I
Yeah.
get it. I mean, I know where you're coming from. I
When
totally.
you're looking at a whole state.
Yeah.
Versus just your own county,
Yeah.
it is going to be different, but then look, I mean, it is alarming and then you have to think about your own county, think about the communities in Winnebago County. How many actual communities have public transportation?
Yeah.
You know, Oshkosh, but does Amro, you know, the outer communities, they don't have public
Winchester, well.
transportation, right?
Yeah.
And so if you live in Amro and you need to get to to Oshkosh for an appointment, there's not a bus you can hop on to get there and get back, or, you know, so there's a lot of cyclical problems or barriers that revolve around transportation
Okay.
and access to the things that you can receive.
This 34% really makes me very sad. I think that's,
Well, and I think is it fair to also point out that it's 34 is probably kind of in the middle, because if we go into our northern tier of counties, it's probably. I mean, I don't know what the number is, but it's much greater than that, because things are so much more sparsely populated, and which makes stores and even convenience stores less likely to be.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm assuming that when we have the words healthy food outlet in there, it is not taking into consideration gas stations, convenience stores, because again, the further away you get from like Oshkosh, the less quick trips you find, but also, although not, I guess, Winnebago County, but the less availability to shop through, you know, a full store to have access to nutritious foods. A general convenience store is not going to have fruits and vegetables, whole grains, variety of dairy products.
It is kind of amazing how much fresh stuff there is in a Quick Trip. I mean, it is, plus, you know, the whole frozen meat section
Yeah, they are a great.
and all the dairy stuff.
Their egg
It's-
prices are great right now.
Yeah,
Better than most grocery stores.
I think too, that number is from, it's like a nationally collected number. So it's possible that like the way that they're defining things doesn't
Right.
incorporate, like, because they don't know what Quick Trip has, so they just kind of, you know, have.
Gas
convenience
station,
stores in
check.
one,
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a good.
Okay.
So that is kind of what I wanted to share, just our local and our statewide impact. And then Hannah had some other more local.
Yeah, I just wanted
impacts on
to
here.
highlight a couple of things that are going on now and that we have done. So we've talked here a couple times before about the Fox Valley Food Security Effort, which is kind of a new group that we had started up and coordinate to work on food security. So in the report, it does talk about a survey that we had done with some community members, just to try to get more information about kind of what the barriers they are experiencing to eating healthy foods or getting enough to eat are. And so did collect some responses over the summer and have been analyzing some of those results and kind of trying to put it in the context of some other data we have, to make some plans about what could be our role in expanding food security. And just recently, we decided to kind of hone in on one thing that's happening now. Perhaps you have heard about it. At the end of this month, the SNAP emergency allotments are going to be going away. So during the pandemic, everybody that was on SNAP was able to get the maximum benefit for their household size. But starting next month, they'll just kind of be getting what would be the typical amount they would be getting based on their household size and their income. So a lot of people are going to be seeing a pretty big decrease in their benefits. For some people, it's like hundreds of dollars a month less that they'll be getting. And obviously with the prices of food right now, that's going to create a hardship for a lot of people and probably also going to really increase the amount of people that are using the food pantries. So we are focusing right now on just kind of how can we help prepare and help kind of respond to what they're calling is the hunger cliff, as people have fewer resources to get food. So in the kind of currently what we're working on is focusing on communication. So we're sharing some resources among ourselves to kind of share out to our audiences and partners about just kind of what people can do to prepare or what organizations might do to prepare. And then trying to connect with food pantries and some of those other resources to, you know, make sure that they know what's coming and find out how we might be able to support them.
You know, with the worker shortage, with some of those people be able to get a part-time job and earn some money to buy their own food. I mean, I was just in DC and they were talking about the labor shortage, and they said that a lot of them were happy to see some of these programs ending because that will make people go back and need to get a part-time job to make ends meet. And that might help with like, we have so many restaurants that are closing because they have no servers, you know, or they have very limited hours. But they were saying that there was so much free benefits out there that people aren't going back to work, and that this will actually help small businesses to maybe get part-time workers to, you know, it's different if you're disabled. It's very much a hardship. But if you're not disabled and you're able to work and you're just not working because you don't need the money because we have a program there that gives you the food, well, then it's a hindrance to the small businesses because they can't survive without workers.
Most SNAP recipients do have jobs. They just aren't making enough to meet their needs. So I'm not sure that will
Make a
kind
difference.
of have an impact.
We do know that there's some individuals who were potentially a server at a restaurant who had to close. And so that increase was life-saving for them at that time. And that they, not their fault that the increase lasted for as long as it did, because it aligned with the emergency, the public health emergency, which has not ended until most recent. And so you're right, maybe some will then actually be able to make more going back to that type of a role or whatever role they, would get or a job, and then be able to no longer have the benefits. But we also have families who actually not working allows them to have more money than what their job, because if whatever job they had, sometimes the wage that they were making was not allowed, that was barely making ends meet, but then would now allow them to not qualify for benefits. And then also, if you're working, if you have kids, then you're also needing to find childcare for those kids, which generally costs money as well. So sometimes it didn't make sense for a family or an individual in the household to work, because it was going to in turn cost them more money than it would to collect the maybe $75 they got a month for groceries. And a really common myth I think that we often hear is that these benefits are supporting a month worth of groceries, and that is not the case. I mean, we should have prepared, I guess I wasn't anticipating on this question, but we could absolutely show you at some point what a family size household, like let's say 4, gets with a certain income, a household income, what a family of 4 gets. And it's not a lot of money. It's certainly not going to provide enough money for groceries for the entire month. It's supplemental, which is really what all of these are supposed to be, as supplementals to get you through the time. And
And one comment and then one question. Comment is that these food programs, these feeding programs, SNAP, WIC, these are not welfare programs. These are through agriculture. So you're helping farmers by providing these foods rather than coming out of a welfare system. It's coming from Department of Agriculture. My question is, the SNAP thing that's ending at the end of the month, is that a federal guideline or is that a state? Because we just heard from Governor Evers, we've got this huge surplus. Is this something we could request from the governor, that some of this help keep these families hungry, these families fed? Is it state or is it federal?
I think it's a federal program.
But the
The
guideline,
governor potentially could do something else maybe, but I think as far as like SNAP allotments, the
okay,
decision is federal.
all right. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I mean, so what Hannah was getting to, and maybe you just want to highlight what you've been working on the Hunger Cliff, the specific county resources.
Oh, yeah. We had put together a couple of years ago, we had actually put together like a really comprehensive list, but I was thinking potentially we could update that, but it's also kind of overwhelming for people to look at because it's like a 10-page document. We put together some kind of easier to look at, just 2-page, kind of flashier looking resources that highlight a couple of the food resources in the county, like the senior meal sites and food pantries and things like that.
So what we're seeing is that, or knowing is that some of our households in our communities were receiving enough money to just go to the grocery store and buy food or go to their food outlets and purchase food. Whereas now with those benefits decreasing, they very likely may need to go back out and access food at the food pantry or access food in other outlets throughout the community that are available to them. That during the pandemic saw decreases in participation because there was more money available to go purchase food. And the pantries have slowly seen increases in participation again, but they are anticipating on seeing a large increase after these food allotments end, because families are gonna have to, seek their food elsewhere. But then just taking into consideration, again, you have to have transportation. And so most likely they're gonna go to the store for some food. They're gonna have to go to the pantry for some food. They're gonna have to go to the meal site maybe for some food. And then also acknowledging that you need to be eligible for a lot of food pantries. And so you also have to have, a lot of our pantries require a residency. So if you're homeless, you don't have a mailing address, you're not eligible to participate in food pantry. Not all, but some. So there's a lot of barriers to accessing food, which is really a basic need. So really our job is to help families, help make it as easy as it possibly can be. So Hannah's been doing a really great job of putting together some resources and highlighting. We've talked about highlighting which ones require eligibility and then which ones do not for some of our families or households that, that's a barrier.
There's been a lot of popularity with like Ruby's Pantry, because I think that's one that doesn't require.
Eligibility.
Yeah.
Ruby's Pantry does cost money,
It does.
but I think it's $20. Yeah, I mean, it's food. I don't know if there's been an increase in Ruby's Pantry.
Churches that are running food pantries, they're not charging though, are they?
Probably not. I
That's
mean, everyone operates a slight
Yeah.
bit different, but no, not generally. Yeah. And oftentimes, some of those little church pantries or library pantries, they don't have any eligibility at all, but they're harder to know about because they're not as popular or not as large. So it's kind of been our job to dig up all of the basement pantries or the less common pantries that our family members can be using.
So if we hear of a church that's doing a pantry, should we let you know?
Sure.
Just in case it's not on your list?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Then where do you publish your list? I mean, how would somebody that's homeless find your list?
Yeah, so that's kind of what Hannah was just talking about, was that maybe you want to speak to more just the network that you established. And
Yeah, well, we can put it on our website and things like that, but obviously not everybody's gonna be able to access it there. But we're sharing our resources among kind of our email list and our participants in the food security effort. So hopefully amongst maybe the people that they serve, or if they're kind of partnering with other agencies, or if they know of people who kind of do a lot of volunteering with people who might be wanting to use those resources, they can kind of share that
Yeah,
through
maybe
hopefully a lot of different
put
channels.
one by the day warming shelter, because them are all
Oh,
homeless.
yeah,
So I mean,
yeah,
if you post a list in the church's basement,
yeah.
they basically got 25 homeless people that come there every night.
Yeah.
And they would know then that this is where I can go to get some food during the day. And when the day-by-day warming shelter is actually complete, that'll be a 50 bed. So it'd be an ideal place to have a,
Yeah,
I think the
Oh, that's fair.
libraries too.
yeah,
And we started partnering with the State Street Center as well. Chris, our nutrition educator, and Todd both rotate right now going there. And something that they had shared that the director there had shared with us is that the individuals who are coming there during the day really are becoming friends, word spreads. So the last time I had visited, actually, everyone had just left to go walk over to Salvation Army to eat lunch together, she was like, it was so sweet to see everybody let's hop on the bus together, let's go over. So yeah, I mean, really, it's as many places as we can get, and then hoping that just even word of mouth is helpful.
And where do people how do people access their SNAP coupons? Or however they're issued? They're private.
Yeah, it's a credit card.
It's a credit card now, yeah, but how do you get those? Or once you've got it, it gets automatically filled every month? I mean, what happens? How does that work?
Once you have it, it is automatically deposited into that account associated with that card.
Okay.
But you have to go to the food share office and.
Because I was thinking, if they had to pick these things up every month,
or
then that would be a
apply
place to
Oh,
have,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
they don't do that.
I mean, maybe some people are coming in person when they're originally signing up, but it is also something that you can do online as well. Yeah, but it's a process and it's not immediate and it's complicated, and if you don't have access to internet or a computer, it's even harder.
How do we help them to get that access? Do we have a place where they can sign up for it? Or do they have to go to the library and use the internet there? Or
Possibly. Yeah, we're hearing that a lot of our libraries are becoming much more than a place for checking out books, that they are a place to apply for unemployment, to use a printer, to use internet access, to access food. So, yeah, I mean, certainly we could maybe even collaborate, or that's not a horrible idea, to reach out to our libraries and see if they'd be interested in joining the Hunger Network or the food security effort.
Yeah,
You
we
did
have,
one.
yeah, we do have someone from the Oshkosh Library is,
Okay,
oh,
that's right.
yeah, we had someone from the Appleton Library actually who was kind of coming to meetings regularly, and then some things got busy for her, so she's not anymore, but we have someone from the Oshkosh Library, I think, on our list. They don't necessarily normally come to meetings, but we can,
Receive
you know,
material.
yeah, and we can certainly.
So yeah, that's what we have for you. Thank you for your
Thank you.
questions.
any other comments or questions?
Very interesting, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Supervisor Rand, do you have any comments or questions?
Thank you, Steve. Yes, I did write down a couple of things. One of them was, in your teaching, do you have anyone look at the package that gives you the calories, the fat content, the salt content, and all that kind of thing? Teach that, because I found that very important when I go and purchase things that are in a package.
Yeah, we kind of more to the bigger picture, the policies, systems, environmental change work that we do, or like the impact, I suppose, but we didn't mention the direct education. And I am saving, we're currently, tonight is our last lesson with collaboration with Boys and Girls Club at Oshkosh and Head Start. We've done a 4-week series of nutrition lessons, cooking classes actually, with parents and their kiddos, and we've had 18 families sign up, which the educators honestly were, I think, secretly mad at me for allowing, because it's so hard to say no, and the staff also felt the same way, but it's a lot. It has been a little bit of chaos, but families, they haven't all come every week, and it's been fabulous. But actually this evening, the lesson is food labels. So highlighting a nutrition facts label and really helping families understand what it means to make a nutritious choice, because I think that's something we take for granted, is knowing what is healthy. You shop in the grocery store, and we know that food marketing is really tricky, and they're very good at it. And so, go into a cereal aisle, and the cereals at children's height level are going to be the sugary, characters that they like. But it's also probably going to say contains whole grain, or is a heart healthy choice, or like something like that. But what we are helping our families look at this evening is reading the nutrition label and highlighting the 3 main things: is increased sodium, increased added sugars, and then the ingredients list. So that's a huge component of our direct education.
Super, thank you. The other thing, I went to, I was invited to a WCA, UW Extension gathering that they have initiated. And there they were talking about the people who do the food wise, the 4-H and what have you, have several counties that they're working with. And their question was, are you spread too thin?
Is food wise spread too thin? Is that what you're asking?
Well, it's the Wisconsin County Association. We probably had about 15 people from various counties around the state come in. to talk about what the counties could do around the state to help the UW extension system. And one of their concerns was that the staff who do the programming are spread too thin between various counties. And if I'm not mistaken, Chris, you have what, 3-4 counties that you are working with to collaborate your work? Their question was, are you spread too thin between the counties to be able to do an effective job?
I think honestly, anyone that you ask right now is probably going to feel like we're being asked to do more with less. However, I do think that our motto in our 4-county food-wise program is quality versus quantity. And so we're taking that into consideration with our direct education and with our policy systems and environmental change work. And we don't want to scratch the surface everywhere we go. We want to make positive impacts with our collaborations and our partnerships. So at our schools where we are, it has to be a qualifying elementary school, or at least 50% or more of the students are eligible to participate in free and reduced lunch, where our nutrition educators are delivering nutrition education, a series of nutrition education in, right now, this year we're doing kindergarten and 2nd grade so that we can try to create behavior change early on. We're also trying to highlight that one of those schools that we're already teaching direct ed in with some of the initiatives that Hannah highlights. So an example is Harvest of the Month is a program that we can help schools, or a campaign that we can help schools start, where they highlight a local Wisconsin grown fruit or vegetable once a month, and then we would help them to menu that food to really just throughout the school for that month. Make it every time, if it's a carrot, for example, every time that kid sees a picture of a carrot, they're going to recognize that as a nutritious choice. So that's an example of, beyond the direct education where we can teach them in the classroom for 45 minutes for 6 weeks. Some of the work that Hannah's doing is to really create that overall environmental change where there is continuous reminders throughout the school for the kids to understand what a healthy choice is. And have access to it. So to answer your question, I think we could always use more money, we could always use more help, but we're really trying to be intentional with where we're delivering our education and spending our time so that we can be as impactful as possible.
Thank you. Good answer. Appreciate it. I'm going to be leaving in about 5 minutes. Thank you all for your time. It's been interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
And be safe in your travels today, because I hear the weather is coming.
Weather's coming.
It's not, we're not allowing it.
Please no, we're supposed to be driving to Michigan tonight.
Well, you're going.
That might not be happening.
Or south. Really?
Any other questions or
Yeah,
comments?
I got one
Towards, like,
for
Milwaukee,
Steve.
Chicago.
Foodwise worked in partnership with 783 organizations across 71 of 72 counties. What county did not participate? You know,
Who doesn't have Foodwise right now?
Do you want
Is
to?
it Ozaki?
probably Oneida.
Yeah.
So in Vilas County, there isn't a county extension presence, but we do have partnerships and relationships with the Lakota Tribal Nation and the reservation in Lac du Flambeau. So while it's not a county entity, we do have a presence in 72 counties.
I was just curious. Thanks.
Hearing no further comments or questions, we'll go on to 4-H youth development with Dana.
Pass those around. All right, so these reports should probably start looking a little bit familiar. I know I've been sending them out for the last few months to you. I try to do a highlight of the education and upcoming events with these reports each time. And so I'll just kind of go through what's going on now. I also have our this year's new Thrive data from the surveys that were done that I'll share with you. And we'll go ahead and get started with state updates. So this particular section of my report talks about different opportunities that are offered to youth at the state office and also training opportunities for volunteers or training requirements. So you'll see there's some various events taking place. The state drama team, we have a youth that's involved with that. The state drama team puts on little skits and plays and things like that they do at various 4-H conferences.
Is that what Alice in Dairyland is? That's
No,
funny.
no, that's a fun day photo. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. The American Spirit Trip. This is a trip where the youth travel out east to visit all of the historical areas of interest.
Wow.
What's neat about this year is they haven't been doing these trips. Well, they did do American Spirit last year, but with COVID, there was a couple of years where a lot of these trips weren't taking place. And now they're making extra spots to try to make up for those COVID years. So we've got like 6 or 7 youth going on these trips this year, which is awesome. They're not cheap, but our Leaders Association, through the fundraising, like with pizza sales and basket raffle and that, they actually pay 50% of their cost. So I want to say American Spirit was about $1,600. So they have to, kind of apply for their 50% scholarship or whatever you want to call it. And then they also are required to report out to a couple different clubs and talk about their experience when they get back, so they can encourage other youth to sign up. Wisconsin Leadership Council is a group of youth and volunteers that do planning and promotion on the state level. So we've got some people involved in that. Finn Leto and his father, Chris Leto, are involved in that. And then we have Evan Leto.
No,
That's funny.
I'm
Sorry.
Finn Evan and Numeric has no
Sorry.
last name.
I copied and pasted and I mixed up the names.
Oh.
So it's Finn Leto and his father, Chris Leto, are involved. And then Evan Numeric is also a youth that's involved with the council.
Oh, okay.
Space Camp, which hadn't taken place for a couple of years. It's something that the kids always really look forward to. They go down to at
Huntsville,
Huntsville,
Alabama.
Alabama. And they get to go on the space simulators, and it's, it's really cool experience for them. So we have, usually we only would have 1 or 2 kids that would go on these trips. I think we have like 6. 1, 2, yeah, about 6 of them. So it's neat to see some more activity with that. Citizen Washington Focus is a 4-H national 4-H trip where delegates get selected to talk about, they go to DC, and so they get to meet, I think they get a White House, if I'm not mistaken. They see the White House. They talk about like important topics and how youth can change the world, I guess, if you want to put it like that. And then Art Beat is more of a local thing. It's like an art camp that takes place. We've got a youth attending that.
And where is that?
Art Beat is taking place at Upham Woods in the Dells,
Okay.
that campground. Yep. Some of the trainings that we require our volunteers to do, there's Title IX training and then building safe spaces. It's all about risk management, working with youth, keeping them safe, learning about skills if there should be, we have youth mental health training. So, youth go through all sorts of different things. And so we try to teach volunteers different ways and tips to help deal with youth one-on-one when they're working with them. So those are some required trainings that they do. And then this summer, the state is working on a new summer academy. This is kind of replacing the Wisconsin 4-H Youth Conference, which used to take place in Madison. They're opening it up a little bit wider. And so this is a place where youth can sign up for different tracks and different areas of knowledge. It could be STEM, it could be ag, it could be foods and nutrition, it could be, all different areas. So they can sign up different tracks and participate and do activities in that. So all of these state events that I talked about, interestingly, there isn't a state person up at the state office that plans all these trips. It's actually all of the county educators that are chipping in and helping to plan a lot of these events. So it's a large, pool of resources and work. Let's see, I'll do the Thrive results last. We'll skip that section. County, extension updates, again, our Leaders Association receives these reports as well. So we have our county dues and that are coming up. We have our enrollment demographics, and actually if you turn to the back page, I updated where we are with enrollment. So in the little box to the left on top, it says breakdown of youth members. So we have different tracks or variations of 4-H membership. Community clubs are by far the most popular and have the most youth in, 486. And then project club members, you'll see just 6. What that is, so we have some chartered project clubs like Horse and Pony, Dairy is chartered, the Dog Project is chartered, Interstate Exchange is chartered. We now open it up that if there are youth that don't want to join a community club per se, but would like to just do dogs, they can just join that Dog Project as their club. So it's brand new. It's just, there's a few youth that have opted to do that. Most of them are in the community clubs. And then we have our in-classroom clubs and after-school clubs. We've started to really focus on tracking and getting these youth enrolled in our 4-H online system. The state has made it possible for us to do this now, which has been great because now we have, not only have we gathered their information and we're doing education with them, but we can also get them updates on what is a 4-H program doing, are there countywide events that they might be interested. Maybe they want to go to summer camp. Jody and I are actually going to talk with the classrooms and see, if they're technically a 4-H member, they could take things to the fair if they wanted to. So I'm really being intentional about focusing on all of these classroom kids and kids outside of our normal traditional community club. That isn't for everyone. And so we've got 156 kids that we've reached so far since October in these classroom clubs. And that's the combination of the Chick Plus programming and then some of the after school programming as well. So what's really cool about that is I would say probably 95% of these kids never heard of 4-H. So when Sarah goes in, being our youth and science educator, going in and working with the kids, this is a lot of times it's the first time that they're hearing about 4-H. So it's nice to be able to put a number to what is actually, what we're doing. So, so total enrollment is at 648. If you were to look at our enrollment based on just the traditional community club members, we're up about 30. Well, I guess if you take into consideration the seniors that graduated last year, we always have about 20 seniors that graduate. So we're up 30 new families plus replace the 20, seniors that had graduated. So it's really nice to see some growth in 4-H coming out of the COVID stuff. We took a big hit when COVID first came out. We've been slowly growing and now we've surpassed our numbers from last year, which is really good. It makes me feel really good to see that. Our demographics, which is just to the right of that, the state put together this wonderful data page where I can pull all these wonderful graphs and charts on demographics. Before we had this option and before we were able to start tracking our classroom clubs and that, our demographics would have predominantly looked pretty white and middle class. But now that we've been able to get out into the classrooms and track and reach these youth, we can see where we're actually going. We're starting to see more of a mix, which is great. We want to make sure that we're hitting all youth, not just a select group of youth, and definitely being intentional about reaching out to be diverse. And then under that, our retention rate. This is just it's a statewide listing of what is our retention rate like? How are you continuing to stay in the program?
With no numbers on here, you really can't tell. Well, although that green line, that shows 76%.
Right. So statewide, the average is 76% retention rate.
Okay.
In Winnebago, down at the bottom, we're at 83.63. So we're above the state average, which is nice.
What the heck happened in Milwaukee? Did they just have poor counting or?
Milwaukee is a kind of a different beast. Traditional community clubs is not really a thing in Milwaukee. They mainly are in the schools. So they're getting different rounds of youth every year, when they're going in. So that's why that one looks kind of odd.
And the other question above in the demographics, what is it about third grade that makes makes that bar go, right off the chart?
The majority of our Chick Quest programs are with third graders because they're in third
Those
grade.
who raising chicks, or you calling the children chicks?
No, the raising the chicks.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah. So the majority of those classrooms are third grade simply because that particular program talks about life cycles, and that's what they learn in the third grade statewide curriculum. So it's,
I say hand out chickens to some more of these.
yeah.
Am I
So-
missing Winnebago County?
So they scrunch all the counties together. That's why I clicked on it and the box highlighted down at
See
the
the box at the
bottom.
bottom on the right-hand side?
Right.
Yeah, so all 71, you can't see them on the chart because they're all scrunched together, but you can click on it and then I saw Winnebago pop up. So that's why I did a screenshot of that. So that's kind of a snapshot of our enrollment and demographics. Very exciting. I'm kind of a data statistics like to look at that kind of stuff. So it's exciting for me to, to look at that and share it with you. Programming updates. We just had 4-H Fun Day 2 Saturdays ago. We had 71 kids registered, and that was right around that time when COVID and strep was like wreaking havoc for the
Yeah.
schools. So we had 11 youth that unfortunately contacted me and said, we can't come, we all have COVID or we have strep. So, but we had 60 kids total that actually attended, and it was a nice turnout. So they there's about 14 different projects that were taught by our volunteers. And we had some royalty at our fun day. We had Allison Dairyland come. She taught cheese making, which is kind of interesting. We had Megan Numerick, who is fairest of the fair. She did a session on geology, and the kids learn how to grow crystals. And then we had Macy Dodd, who is the Miss Rural Winnebago. She did salt painting with the younger youth. And so it was fun to see, they all came with their crowns and sashes, and kids got a kick out of it. So that was fun. But yeah, we had a good turnout. It was a lot of fun. And then most of the pictures that you see are from Fun Day, actually down the side. You've got Allison Dairyland there. We've got kids doing, can't quite tell if that's salt painting or looks like salt painting. Chris Soper came and she did a session on healthy snacks. She had a pretty nice sized group and they all learned how to make some healthy snacks, which was fun. Steve Timke, one of our great volunteers, he always does rocketry every year. So the kids make smaller rockets and then he brings his big stuff and he takes it outside and they shoot off missiles, and that's kind of neat. So yeah, it was a fun day for the youth. And they look forward to it because they get to take things home with them.
Tiaras were a nice touch.
Yes, of course. Another workshop that I'm actually teaching with the help of a couple volunteers is the Add a New Stitch crocheting workshop. We have a number of youth that are signed up in crocheting, and I love to crochet, so I thought, why not? Surprisingly, we had 24 youth and their parents come to our first workshop. It's a 4-part series. The moms are learning with the kids, which is awesome because then they can help them as they're working on their projects. So we did that, and they're working on add a stitch blanket. So it's like kind of a throw, and then each section is a new stitch that they learn. So that's going to be taught over 4 months. So that's been fun.
Oh, that's nice.
Egg apron.
Yeah, I could show them a picture of my egg apron. Yeah. The 2023 summer camp we've been planning. We started training already in January. We've got 21 youth counselors, high schoolers that are training to plan activities and oversee the youth at summer camp this year. So every training session, they learn a little bit something different. They work on lesson planning, they did cabin names, they did t-shirt designs this last time. The theme this year is Under the Sea. So lots of sharks and fish and cool things that they're planning. I held a new family Zoom a couple weeks ago, just kind of put it out there to any new families that, 4-H is kind of a very overwhelming program when you first join and you don't know much about it. There's just so many facets to 4-H. So I had some families join in a Zoom and I just kind of went over the basics, answered their questions, and it was just a nice hour, spent with the new families. Chick Quest. So we've officially finished 3 schools with Chick Quest. We had a successful hatch here, which was great. We had some chicks hatched. So Sarah, being the wonderful educator that she is, she's so good with the youth. I mean, that is where she shines. She goes out to the schools and does the Chick Quest program with the kids. For the most part, they're 3rd graders. We have had, we did a 7th grade special ed class. There's a 1st grade class that's starting up. We have 4 more classes that are starting up in the next couple of months.
Are they incubating eggs in the classroom? Is that what they're doing?
Yep. So we got a grant from Culver's. We got a $5,000 grant from Culver's. We were able to purchase 7 incubator kits and all the supplies that they need, which has been really, really cool. But anyway, I want to pass these around. So I kind of, Sarah's the awesome child educator. She goes in and teaches the kids. I'm kind of the, I procure new schools. I put together the statistics, get their numbers, t-shirts entered in the system. I do reporting to funders, that kind of fun stuff. So I've got some neat posters that these are actually going to be shared with Culver's. They're going to hang them up in the Westtown restaurant. So I'll pass these around, but these are the 3 classrooms. What I do is I reach out to them and I ask them to each week send me a quote or about something that they learned and then a photo. So I'll pass these around. They're kind of fun to look at. So we had a successful hatch. I think we picked up a total of 22 chicks. Was that last week? I believe it was last week. And then we have a leader that comes and takes them and she'll raise them on her farm. But what a neat experience, especially the first round of chicks getting hatched. The kids were really excited. I got a lot of evening texts and emails from teachers just with troubleshooting. You know, they were kind of our guinea pigs for this round. So it was, you know, my thermometer is doing this, or what should the temperature be in the brooder, or this chick is doing that, and is that okay? And a lot of, you know,
Once a
fun
chick
questions.
hatches. Okay, here's my question.
Uh-huh.
If a chick hatches at 5 o'clock on a Friday and there's nobody in the school all weekend long, do they die? I mean, what
So-
happens to chick? What?
So the chick, we set the eggs, so the incubation period for a chick is pretty much 21 days on the dot. So we set the eggs on a Tuesday, so we know that they will hatch during the week, during the school week.
Okay, that's good.
And, you know, sometimes, yeah, you could get a chick that hatches maybe on a Sunday night. They're fine in that incubator for 24, even 48 hours.
I was worried about the chick who's born Friday night.
Yeah,
night.
well, yeah. Also, it is part of the program, the teachers have to go in and on weekends and check,
Oh,
you know, because they have to check humidity on the incubators and make sure the temperature is stable and all that good stuff. So that is part of the deal, I guess, in doing Chick West. But yeah, the chicks, once they hatch, they can stay in the incubator for about 24 hours. It gives them time to kind of dry off and get fluffy, and then we transfer them to a brooder box with a heating lamp on them. So
If you
I
need
was-
somebody to pick up an extra chick, I think Karen's.
I'm worried about these chickens and also thinking Culver's wants to eat our chickens after they get.
Culver's has been great. They've been wonderful supporters of this program, so that's been wonderful. But yes, I felt very much the expectant mother when we had our eggs. I was like, don't touch the eggs, don't, you know, don't, you know. I was a protective mother then.
Was that
But-
a specific grant that Culver's was offering, or they were
I just
offering a
read-
grant, you?
I just reached out to
Suggested
them.
this.
Jody had mentioned, because she does things with the fair, they partner with a lot of things with the fair, and Jody said, she goes, you know, if you're looking for extra funds, she gave me the contact email for the owners. She goes, reach out to them. They love to fund this kind of stuff. So I emailed them and I sent them all the info and a PowerPoint presentation on what the program is, and they're like, yeah, we'll give you $5,000. So it was nice. Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, definitely. So Chick Quest has been really fun. Like I said, Sarah does an amazing job with the kids. They love to see her come. It's exciting for them. And we're also promoting 4-H, you know, that whole time. They're getting our information now. They can get our newsletters. We send an info on summer camp and different, you know, countywide events. And like I said, we're going to team up with the fair and let them know, hey, you want to do a poster about your Chick West experience and take it to the fair, you can do that. So that's kind of the game plan there. Key Award and scholarships, those are coming up. The applications are actually due next week. So youth that are eligible to apply for the Key Award or a college scholarship will be getting those in. And those get processed. We usually know by May 1st who the winners are. And then the upcoming programming is just a list of events, different projects that are doing things. I don't have to read through them all, but just know the projects are really getting busy now, especially getting through the holidays. And now they're prepping for learning about what they need to do for taking projects to fair. So Dog Project is meeting consistently, of course, Horse Project, Rabbit Project is planning clinics and shows, Dairy is planning various field trips and stuff. So they're all really getting busy, which is neat to see. Any questions on like this particular report at
I'm
all?
anticipating we're not gonna hear a pig fest or anything like that. coming out here
A what?
this year.
A pig quest? Oh, a pig
Pig
fest?
fest.
Probably not, yeah. And then I just want to take a few minutes and go through the Thrive survey. So for some of you, you've seen this already. We did this last year. It's a survey. Kids grade ages 13 and up get sent a survey asks them questions about their overall 4-H experience and what they think of it. So I've updated the scores because this is their second year of doing this particular survey.
Right.
Yep, so there's a flower sheet, and then there's like the data sheet. So the flower sheet is just a visual of what the Thrive survey looks at. Down at the bottom, we've got our rich fertile soil. That's all the developmental context and training and education. And the more fertile that our soil is and the more energy we put into that, the better the youth thriving and development outcomes are. So as we move up the flower, it talks about social, emotional, and cognitive learning, positive youth development, and then the long-term outcomes. And so these survey results kind of summarize where we're at. It's a snapshot of where we're at. If you look at the first page, this is the program quality scores. You can see overall we are at 5.9 on a scale of 7. So this is where it gets a little confusing. People think it's a scale of 1 to 10, but it's 1 to 7. So anything that's 5 at a 5 is considered high quality programming, and anything above 5 is kind of like gravy. It's great. You're doing good. So we averaged a 5.9 for our overall score. Youth sparks are kind of, what are the things that are really sparking the youth interest? They get asked questions on that. Our youth feel like they belong to something. They feel accepted. They get surveyed on, the volunteers they work with. They work with these caring adult volunteers that help them to learn these new things. Growth and the youth adult partnerships. So that's just how we scored on that program quality. The next page is the thriving trajectory scores, and this talks about growth mindset, openness to challenges, how are they doing emotionally, setting goals, things like that. So in this area, we scored a 6, and then it just again displays the different categories that they were asked about.
Do you know how we ranked statewide?
Yes, I have that on the back.
Okay,
Yep,
we're
we'll get to
getting there,
that.
sorry.
Yes. So a 6 on that. And it's neat to see because we know that youth that are active in 4-H, they learn how to set goals. We talk about mental health and positive emotions. And so it's good to see these nice scores. The third area, which is developmental outcomes. So how are they doing academically, or what's their attitude about academics? Social competence, how do they hold themselves personally? What are their personal standards? Personal responsibility standards that they set for themselves. We scored a 6 on that as well, which is wonderful.
Personal safety at 6.4. I mean,
Yeah, yep. Some of them did areas where, higher than others. So that was the average in that particular area. And then the back page is a comparison.
Okay.
So to the far left, we have the state average for 2021, 22. I have 2023 because we were reporting in 2023, but we've got the state averages. Then I have the scores that we had from last year. And then I've got the scores that we just got this year. So you can kind of compare. So looking at the state average, we are above or at
Yeah.
the state. If we compare from last year, we improved in some areas and went down a little bit in others, but overall, I think the only one, the overall score and development outcomes, we went down a 10th of a point, which I'm not gonna do too much about because we did really well, so. So any questions on all that fun data?
Are you working with teenage girls with their mental health? I know that it's been in the news lately where, what, 30% across the US wanted to commit suicide.
Yeah, I know. there's been a lot of
70%
news.
were despondent all the time. What are we doing in our county?
So as far as programs directed specifically with teens about youth mental health, we don't have anything in particular geared for that. However, our adult chaperones are required to take youth mental health training, which talks about all of those different things and how to help youth. Like, if you have a youth that comes to you that has, a lot of times you'll see a youth will come to it's easier for them to come to a volunteer leader than it is to go to their own parent sometimes. And so some youth feel very open and talk to the volunteers, and the volunteers need the skills to learn how to deal with that and reply and help them. So youth mental health training has been definitely a push at the state level, a requirement. A specific workshop on youth mental health, I have not seen. However, a lot of the leadership opportunities that the youth can take part in the statewide opportunities, there's an element about leadership and positivity that I think plays into that.
You
Okay.
have a sense of belonging. I mean, your
Right.
stats are showing that 4-H is providing an opportunity for youth to feel like they belong to something, and that
Right.
that
Yeah.
contributes to
Kind
the
of,
overall.
yeah, the programming contributes to the overall youth mental health.
One thing I'll also add, Doug, is in a recent conversation with Alicia Schrader-Hag, who is the 4-H educator in Allegheny County. She is connected with Dr. Larissa Duncan at the School of Human Ecology, and she's working on developing a pilot program for specifically focused on building self-esteem and self-confidence in young women. So that is in a pilot, that's like in a formation pilot stage. And then once that, it's one of those things that grows, and it likely is going to be rolled out. Hopefully the plan is for it to be rolled out statewide within a year. So there are some things that are happening. That's hot off the presses. So
Yeah, I didn't hear about that, so that's awesome.
No, that's like hot off the presses.
All right, great.
So there are actions that are being taken, from different perspectives.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, overall, it's been the last 6 months, I would say, have been just really exciting because everything is all of a sudden just really, things are just booming now. So that it feels good and it makes the job a lot more fun. So
Is there ever like you said that, they pay 800, the 4-H pays 8. Is there ever any 100% scholarship? They like low income people, $800 might seem like a million, and they'll never get an opportunity to go. I mean, if we could sponsor like one of them due to a financial statement or whatever from the family, then it's impossible for them, like the food benefits are being canceled and
Yeah.
they can't even afford groceries, let alone $800 for their son or daughter to go to a space camp. I mean, I just think it'd be nice if we could basically do like one a year where anybody could go, not
it's
somebody that has the
definitely
resources.
something that could be implemented. Our Leaders Association, I think you've heard me mention this before, they are in what do you want to call it, a circumstance of having excess funds. So the state 4-H office requires, them, they can only keep a 2-year reserve of their expenses in the checking and savings, and the Leaders Association had way more than that. So they have excess funds, which now they're required to do a 5-year spend down. So there's opportunity to offer more money towards scholarship, which I think they are beefing up that area. Whether it's offering more or offering it to more youth, I'm not entirely certain what route they're going to go just yet. But yeah, that's something that
I just know that somebody that, the family doesn't have a lot of money, $800 seems like, you know, $1 billion. And to somebody that's well off, that's nothing, you know, you just write a check out and then your son or daughter can go.
Right.
Where they'll never get the opportunity to go because they're never gonna have $800.
Mhm.
So it's like if we could sponsor, you know, one of them, it would be something that maybe a trip of their lifetime.
Yeah.
And, you know,
We have the endowment as well, which I know some of the interest can be drawn and used for certain things. It's, I will be honest, it's a challenge to get the Leaders Association or the Leaders Board to spend their funds. So this whole 5-year spend down plan has them at a tailspin, you know, they're like, oh, we're gonna spend our money. And I've been trying to get them to change their mindset on this money is meant to be spent on programming. It should not be squirreled away like a retirement plan. You get to keep 2-year reserves, you'll be okay. Let's get some programming going. So yeah, that's kind of a goal to get them to fund and supplement more opportunities.
that'd be nice if we could look into that. I think, you know,
Yeah,
for somebody that has no resources and they don't have parents that have the extra money, then they're never gonna get that opportunity.
right.
And for $800, it's a, you know, something that could change your life, you know,
Yeah.
they see something that they want to be a part of this, you know, and
And I think the state office, like, does the foundation offer some, I think they have some scholarships too. That might be, that youth can apply for, like that's different funds that they can. As well, so,
it's nice.
yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Just hearing that, it just boggles my mind. The state has an excess of money.
Nope, not the state, it's the county.
No,
Our
The
county.
state,
our state.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
yes,
the state, and they can't figure out how to spend it.
yeah,
The county has an excess of money. And we're having trouble finding out how to spend it. And now you're telling me this organization, so there's a common denominator here, is excess of money, but the problem is getting people to spend it.
mhm,
And
Have
that
excess of
comes-
money and a decrease in imagination.
Oh, well, but it is, and if you think about it, there was a retirement guy at the power company who said, all your life, you save, and now you retire, and your job is to spend your money. But we have trouble doing that because we're so locked into that.
yep,
And he said the best financial accountant you can have is the one that the check to the undertaker bounces. And he's done it right. But we are nowhere close to, you know, we've got all this money sitting over, we can't get it to the people.
yeah, you did kind of put an interesting spin on that.
Oh, I think way too much. I have
So
no answers, but I think.
I have no problem throwing ideas out for different ways for them to spend their money. So whether or not they want to hear it, I don't have a whole lot of control over, but.
No, but how do you do that?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just like the rest of the programs. Another comment that came to mind, you lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You could have all these programs and present them to the people, but they have to make that step. They have to come and get it. You can't jam it down their throats.
yeah.
It's so difficult. The world is nothing but a story problem. I'll be quiet.
My next goal is to get a educational chicken coop on the grounds over there.
I'm not ruling it out.
Yeah.
I'm not ruling it out.
I make a motion,
That would be
Karen's in
fun.
charge.
I can throw feet. I was just wondering, how are these scores? Are these subjective? People just say, well, I don't know, caring adults. I think I'm kind of a caring adult. We give myself a high score. How do you?
No, so the youth take these surveys,
Yeah.
the youth in grades or ages 13 and up. And it's a kind of a long survey. It's a series of multiple choice questions
Okay.
and ratings, questions and ratings, I guess.
Okay. All right.
And just something else that was shared with me recently is that there's like kind of a steering committee or a leadership team for Wisconsin's Thrive Project. And that group has gotten a letter of recommendation from Dr. Mary Arnold, who is she's the founder and the author of the Thrive model, in supporting and giving high accolades to Wisconsin for the work that they've done in implementing the Thrive survey as a way to determine high quality programs. So when when the guru says you're doing a great job, it really does mean that Wisconsin's, the whole Wisconsin team and how they've implemented at the state and county levels is something that's really important and really impactful for our programming.
Thanks,
Any other
Ron.
comments or questions?
No, these are good reports.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoy them. They're fun to
Next,
put
we'll
together.
move on to extension administrator and department report with Chris.
All right, I have a couple of updates I want to share with you. First, did anybody notice a new smell when they walked in this morning to the meeting room? All right, if you look at your feet, you will notice that there is new carpeting in this room, meeting room C, which is the small one, and then meeting rooms A and B all got new carpet replaced about 3 weeks ago. We thought that there was concern that the glue was going to negatively affect the chicks' development. We worked out okay. So that was just an update that the crew that was able to come in and did it, they turned it around very quickly. In some cases, you may not notice a lot of difference, but it is really just a good upgrade to eliminate some of the bubbling that was occurring and just some of the wear spots. All of the carpet is in those 2x2 squares. So if something happens, somebody spills something, there's a tear, it can be pulled out and replaced instead of having to replace a whole piece. So
Is it the same color that the old stuff was?
it is not the same. There are some similar, like I call this what do I?
Speckled.
It's speckled. It's kind of just people friendly. Where it doesn't look dirty immediately, but yet
Camouflage.
but yeah, kind of a little bit of a camouflage, but also can be cleaned fairly easily. So that's something cool. That's been in the process. That's thanks to Mike Elder and the facilities team for doing the funding of that, but we see it on the daily basis. So that's pretty cool.
In my defense, the fumes were eye-watering.
It was.
I heard they were
Yeah.
really bad.
They were bad.
Yeah. And although I did, because of this, I did do some research and there are some different compounds that evaporate very quickly. And I think this is what they had used. So that was good. So another thing, just to keep you in the loop. So as you know, our office also manages the meeting room reservations, and Jody Bazai is taking the lead on that and doing a great job. Her and I have been working. We have had an increased number of no-shows that have some groups that like reserve multiple dates and they just don't show up and they don't let anyone know. With the increased demand for the spaces, we're needing to be a little bit more, one, Jody tries to be proactive in her, to find out, hey, you guys coming in, are you using it? But we're also with a couple of groups getting pretty close to enacting our cancellation policy, that if they have one more no-show without, we're going to cancel the rest of their reservations because they are taking up valuable space that is being utilized by our county teams and other community groups that would like to do that. So just want to make you aware that's nothing that's different. We're not adding or changing our policy. We're just to a point where our usage has increased now that we rebounded after the pandemic plus. So there's a lot of people that use it. So it's really just about we want to make the space and make sure that it's available. And then there's a couple of other groups that I'll be connecting with just Executive Daniel to make sure that we're on the same page. There's a number of candidate forums or a couple of groups that want to host candidate forums, and we just want to make sure that it's in alignment with our building usage policy. There are some groups that are fairly well known, like the League of Women Voters, that are known for their impartiality and on those. And then, is there a concern if there are other groups that may have a maybe less impartial than others do? Does that make a difference? Or if they meet the needs or they meet the generals of a nonprofit or community organization, then, so just want to make sure of that, and those things are coming, and those types of things happen from time to time, not necessarily around, political pieces, but like some, we find that there's, we'll learn that all of this is actually, they're hosting a for-profit training course. The organization might be a nonprofit, but they're actually generating revenue. And so we have to kind of tweak that and have connections with them. So just wanted to make you aware of those things and kind of how we're working through that. The staffing, a couple staffing updates. The health and wellbeing educator position is posted. It was posted early last week. It will close on February 28th. So it was open it'll be open for most of the month of February, working on promoting through our networks. I do have on my list, I was going to send an email this morning to the committee with the link to the position so that you could see the posting. We had a little bit of an issue with some of our shared, one of our shared tool collaboration resources that took my time away. So I will do that afterwards just so that you have that in case you have someone in your network or that you'd want to forward that along. The one thing, and this would be with Steve, would be I would give the first, if there is somebody who would want to be, I would welcome someone from this group to be on the search and screen committee. In many cases, it's the chair, and or we also know that sometimes the scheduling, and I have to plot out what the scheduling might be. So how about, if it's okay, Steve, you and I will connect. I might send you some tentative dates and see if it works. And then if it doesn't work, then we'll figure out who else might want to be able to sit in.
Well, Karen did last time, but I'll
Yes.
get the date first.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know. And Karen, and thank you, because Madison's great. So we did good. So that's
I
something.
will say, they were all impressive.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
it was, that was kind of, that was good, because we really couldn't mess up too much. The other regional dairy educator, all of the requests, all the paperwork has been submitted. That one will be posted. It's possible it might be posted by the end of the week, but realistically, well, the end of the week is tomorrow. So it's probably going to be posted early next week. And that's the regional dairy educator position with Oconto, Shawano, Outagamie, and Winnebago counties. That one will be based on who the candidate will be, will determine where their where their work location is going to be, but they will also provide outreach to all 4 of those counties. So that one is coming soon. Probably that one is probably mid-April. I'm thinking it's the earliest the health and well-being educator, everything goes perfect, is about the 3rd of April. That's the clock of how things can go. One other note, through a couple of things in the past, in last year's budget, I included about $14,900 for a 3-county positive youth development educator. Through a couple of things and some information and some new things that have come. I'm not, at this point, I'm not going to move forward with that position as a 3-county position. And there's a couple of main reasons why. One, it was dependent on all 3 counties having the funding, and well, approved in Wapaka County, they're still not 100% on board with a 3-county shared position, or they are, if implemented, they were already very skeptical about how that would look. So it would be very hard to let someone, many times from my perspective, and actually being in that role, it's very hard to be able to show significant impact, even if their individual isn't experienced, in 8 months or less before the budget decisions would need to be made. The other piece is that this is the good news, is that there is also an AmeriCorps opportunity through Wisconsin 4-H, and those 3 counties, I don't know if you decided to apply or not. Dana didn't. The other 2 was to serve some of the, would fill some of that, I don't want to say gap, but that opportunity for outreach in the communities. So that was not something that was known prior to about late December, early January, as far as like the feasibility that, hey, this could be a real thing. And these would be individuals that would that are part of the AmeriCorps program. They could be full-time, three-quarter time, or half-time type positions to meet a variety of different needs. So I think in conversations with our educators in Outagamie and Wapaka County, they would like to utilize that to then determine what the scope and the opportunities, use it as kind of a case study or a trial. And I think that makes sense. With that, there is the allocated $14,900. And I guess I'd like to ask for consensus. And I've been in conversation with Dana, at the earliest, even if there's a need in the 4-H program for summer coverage to provide some additional, I guess, like an extension associate to be someone that can provide additional with fair related projects, camp related projects, summer day camps, to complement to both in the summer, to increase the capacity of both Dana and Sarah, as they are pretty busy. And this would be another individual for a short period of time to be able to increase the capacity, possibly even, I mean, there's all kinds of things that Dana and I were talking about, but nothing carved in stone.
Similar to, remember when some of you were here when we had Jack the intern, that summer, he did a bang up job and reached a ton of kids. So similar, yeah.
Yeah. So that would be utilizing, so we would utilize a portion, and I don't have the exact numbers at this point. I'm gonna think between 7,000 and 8,000 for a limited term summer position to work directly with Dana and Sarah. We would those dollars are already allocated and included in the agreement, and so we would utilize the state hiring process to hire that individual, and then whatever the balance, whatever that balance would be that's left would be either unexpended, or I would work with you if there were other similar opportunities. So I'm not asking for any additional money. I'm just asking if there's consensus with this group to allow me to utilize the money that's already budgeted in a slightly different way, in a slightly different format. We're still attempting to reach the exact same group of youth. It just might be in a different format as opposed to a 3-county full-time position. This would be at this point, this would be a single summer role. And then the timing is, I think the timing is great, because then we would, between Dana, Sarah, and I, we can come back to this group, and we should be able to see and show you some of the impact. And then we could actually have those conversations about what the 2024 budget could look like, if that's a new something that we want to try to include and enhance. So I at this point, I don't know. I don't think it needs a motion, because we're utilizing the already existing financial resources, but I at least want to share with you and at least get your consensus that would be something that this group would be okay with.
And I go along with what you want, Chris.
Okay.
That's one.
It seems like it's obvious, but I'm just wondering, how can we get into trouble with the county board? And when you're switching stuff, does that matter at all? Or because it's in this committee and this committee's in charge of it, we can do whatever we want to, nobody can question us?
So so I can at least go from my standpoint. This money is already allocated and approved in the both the budget and the contract that has been signed by the county executive and reviewed by corporation counsel and all of the individuals that need to do that. The use of the funds are still in line with the intent of the contracted position, which is positive youth development educator. So the only difference is, as opposed to a full-time individual that's spread across 3 counties, I'm proposing to use that exact same amount that's already been approved in the exact same manner. Just the position's scope itself will not be one person over 3 counties, but it'll be a single person over a shorter period of time, focused 100% on Winnebago County.
And I don't have any problem, but you know how the county board works.
Yeah.
Do you see any issues?
I don't think there will be
All
an
right.
issue.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, so Dana and I will start working on that. This is the time where Dana's going to want to start thinking about hiring, because this is when, if it is a student, students are already working on their summer positions and those things. So the cool thing about this is that there will be some, this is because of the short term, this is a limited term, so we can do a direct hire, which shortens up the recruitment process and the steps that need to go, that we need to do. If it's a long-term full-time position, we have to go through the steps like for the regional area educator and the health and well-being educator. So, all right, I appreciate that. The one other thing that in the big picture from my perspective is that this also helps with our recruiting pipeline, with trying to introduce individuals to our organization and or the county as an employer, and just have some experience. So it does help with the future recruitment. It does go a little bit to, it's kind of matches up with what Christy shared. If people know an organization or know the people or the location, they're more likely to be comfortable moving forward. Like, hey, maybe there were some good people there. I think I'd like to work, whether it be work within the county or work within the extension organization. One thing else I had on my notes, and I just wanted to provide a little bit, and this was in my notes before Kay had mentioned. I just want to provide some background about Kay's what Kay was mentioning for those that may not know. So the Wisconsin Counties Association has formed a standing committee related to extension education and relationships within the county, within extension in the county. Some of you, and I know Steve probably remembers the days of the WASAC organization. It was an organization that was made up of county board members and extension committee members that were had opportunities to meet and exchange dialogue about both county issues, but more specifically about how extension and counties can work together, opportunities that there might be. With UW-Madison's, with us transitioning to UW-Madison and reorganization, we looked at a little bit of a different partnership with Wisconsin Counties Association. And the plan was that they were going to do like the administrative organizational coordinating type pieces, and extension was still going to provide, connect with educational resources, but then also engage in conversation to help determine like our programmatic needs. That WEXA organization never really got off the ground. And as a result, one of the things that occurred is that this standing committee or steering committee, I'm not exactly sure of the exact name, was formed. And there are individuals from that are county board supervisors, county leadership, whether it be at least a couple of, there's 1 or 2 administrators or other type of county executive type individuals. But the majority are county board or supervisors like yourselves from counties across the state. Also are part of that is a advisory member are Jason Hausler and Catherine Neiswender, who are our assistant deans that work with the, so Catherine's my supervisor, works with the southern zone. Jason is in the same role with the northern half of the counties, and our relationship, they are like the liaisons with that organization. So Kay has been invited / appointed to that group. So that was what she was referring to. That was their first, she was referring to the first meeting that they had to just kind of, as a group, introduce themselves, establish, their, how the group wants to function. And then I believe there will be at least one face-to-face meeting scheduled coming soon to discuss where those connections between counties and extension can continue to go. And as you can hear by the question that Kay asked is, how can extension keep doing the things that we're doing with, the continued financial constraints on a number of different facets, and what are some of the other solutions that might be out there, and just want to let you know that she's part of that group, and so she would actually be a vehicle to carry concerns forward to help share with that. With other of your peers throughout the state, especially focused on extension issues. So I'll share more, and when I know, again, I'm not necessarily part of when the group meets, but I have gotten some updates from Catherine and Jason of just hey, these are some of the things that they discussed or they talked about type things. So just wanted to give you that update. So I know Kay had to hop off and she probably could have done so herself, but she just, I don't know if any of you knew that that's what that group was going on, but she kind of dropped it and then she had to hop off, and I didn't want to let that linger out there. That it's actually a legitimate group. She's not going rogue, but no, it's a legitimate group that's part of, that's actually a part of the Wisconsin Counties Association. So that's what I've got for today. Happy to answer any questions or listen to any of your comments.
Where did Kevin Jarrett get his undergrad degree?
I believe you're wearing a sweatshirt that would indicate that. So yeah, I also did I apologize. That would have been a January update that I missed. Kevin Jarrett on middle of January, because it coincided with some programming that he was doing. So Kevin Jarrett is the new regional crops and soils educator. So he has been in Outagamie County in a similar role for 23 years. And so beginning this year, he also provides those same outreach education to Winnebago County. So recognizing that the two things are quite different, the two counties are a little in different spots right now. That with the turnover and just how things have happened recently here in Winnebago County, there isn't a lot of pent up demand. A number of the producers have gone or found their resources in other places. A lot of them extension related, but not always. So some of that is easing into that. One of the first things that's on my list, and Kevin and I have a chance to meet tomorrow, is to get him an opportunity to meet with Chad Casper, face to face, and just to with all of the new things that Chad's got going on. Chad and I probably spent about 20 minutes chatting when I last saw him, just the new things and where the potential for crops and soils from an extension research outreach can plug in to help support the efforts of some of their grant projects and the clean water initiatives that are going on. So that's one of the first things that's going to happen not pretty soon. Plus, we also have a system within our front offices of sharing information with Kevin when there is a producer or someone who has a question, to be able to make sure that we can connect them and make sure that their inquiries are addressed.
Very good, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, we'll go on to announcing upcoming extension events at the county board meeting for discussion. Anything you'd like us to announce?
Well, let's see, pizza sales are going on, so you can order them online. I think I have a link in the report if you want to order online. You can, there's also a form you can download.
When does that
from our
start?
website. It's going on right now. And pizza, let's see, March 16th is pizza count night, so I think order by the 15th, you'll be good.
Okay.
Yeah, pizza making is April 1st then.
We don't have a board meeting until after that, do
Next one, March
have one.
28th,
We have one the end of this month.
or February 28th, I believe.
Yeah.
we? February 28th, you're right.
We didn't announce it though.
Yeah.
Um,
And I've bought a smallish, but I've bought a significant freezer, so because otherwise I could never put a pizza in my freezer. It's one of those side by sides and the freezer's like this wide. What? This is useless.
If you haven't had a 4-H pizza, they're pretty darn good.
All right.
A lot of
Gotta lay
cheese
the
on
freezer
them.
down.
Wouldn't my milk spill out of the refrigerator the whole day? It would be,
That's a good point.
I don't know.
Next, we got the scholarship task force updates.
I will say that I have been to since we didn't have a meeting last month, since our previous meeting, I have talked to Mary Ann with like 2 specific schemes. And I think this is dead on arrival until after the election in April 24. She said, I don't think this could be brought. The only way that it can be brought up again is if every single person on the county board who voted against it would be willing to say, yes, we want this back on the agenda. And I don't see that happening. There are just too many negative Nellies on, I brought her suggestion that you'd give me, she says this is just not workable. It's just, I'm sorry, I dropped the ball when you called me and I personally either didn't know or had forgotten that if it doesn't get brought up the very next meeting, it can't be brought up again in the 2-year cycle. And she had not returned a call in time for one meeting and that it was too late. And I just, unless somebody else comes up with some great ideas of how to work around this, I think it's dead at this point.
Should
So we
just take it off?
still have a scholarship, it's still viable, but it is so far below what it certainly should be and what it could be and what it should be based on what it was 23 years ago and the percentage that it covered. It hasn't increased at all, and we know that in the last 23 years, tuitions have gone up 163 to 168%. I mean, it's a pittance, but we've tried every scheme we could think of, and Mary Ann keeps saying, no.
So should we just take it off the agenda?
I think so for now. I mean, if I get wind of something, I will say, put it back
Go
on.
back on. So
Yeah.
we'll just take that out. There
Yeah.
won't be no future updates. Next, we go to committee comments.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Then we go
Well,
to.
hey, what?
I already said no, but go ahead.
No, I was just talking about the scholarship thing. Question, the 4-H project books, do they come at the end of the school year, the end of the summer?
So
When
they turn them in October for.
Oh,
spring.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, all right. I look forward to those.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I can certainly, I can put in a request with Sue. I mean, we'd love to come and present again at a meeting
Yeah.
and bring them.
Okay. And then the comment, and it's only tangentially, I guess, connected, but a church that I don't normally attend, I attend one church on a really regular basis. I attended one that I attend, periodically, and Trinity Episcopal Church in Oshkosh. And this Sunday that I was there at the beginning of February, announced that they have gone into a contract or something with RIP Medical Debt, which is an organization nationwide that purchases medical debt, just like if you were a debt collector, they get to buy those things for a penny on a dollar, and then they go hassling people and they get the money. So Trinity wants to purchase $1.2 million in medical debt, which will cost them about $12,000, and they have until the beginning of May or sometime in May to raise it. They're about 15% there already. I think it's a great thing. There are churches and organizations all over the nation who are doing this through something called RIP medical debt. And instead of giving it to debt collectors, churches are buying them
then
and
just
paying them off, and people get out from under. And even with decent health care and the Affordable Care Act, all those things, it only takes one tragedy, or giving birth to one bad baby that's gonna end up costing his family a couple $1 million in the first 3 months of life. It just, there's nothing that's gonna cover that. And if you hear of a church or an organization that's doing this, I suggest, make some donation to it. But Trinity Episcopal Church in downtown Oshkosh is doing it, and I'm promoting this. I made a contribution to it. I think it's a way of helping people who, having long-term or possibly lifelong debt. Yeah.
When I was at Fisk, I would say 90% of the bankruptcies that I counseled were medical.
Medical, yeah.
It's like one cancer diagnosis will put
Yeah.
you, yeah.
We should, not saying anything that we don't all know, that, for the greatest industrialized nation in the world, that we have such poor healthcare, and people will go into bankruptcy over one really bad diagnosis or tragedy. Or anyway, that's my only comment. Look into it. Thank you.
Okay, next we got, next meeting will be March 16th.
Yeah, it's in my calendar.
And I need that more than
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Doug's got it.
You said all in favor, right? Okay.